Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Got a few games for you today. So we're gonna try to make these a little bit quick, to say the least. Can I get the eval? Thank you. Let me get the eval on this. Okay. E4, as you'll see, and get into the usual Scots position, but out of what do we call this? A card defense. I've never heard of this opening because who plays H6 and G5? It's a very rare opening, and you can see it's already inaccurate. So, anyways, we get B5, free pawn. If you see free stuff in chess, like truly free, like this is truly free, he has to waste a move to attack the bishop that I can just move anyway. If you see something truly free, take it. Yes, this is going to be a quicker analysis because I do have a few other games that I would like to get into. Okay, so he goes here. This is another free pawn. Free stuff, you take it. Now this was definitely one of those moves I played because I just wanted to kind of, close the gap on this king. You see how now, even though this rook has an open file, there really is no big threat here because the king is so boxed in here. Whoops. It's nothing that can be done. And yeah, as you can see, very quickly, the idea takes hold. We go here and we go here. Really the lesson of this game is to take the free stuff. If it's free, take it. Free pawn, take the free pawn. Because eventually, right, I'm up 2 pawns at this point. I have all the agency to either do stuff like this, make the sacrifices, because look, I'm still up a point of material. Even though I sacrificed an entire piece, an entire 3 points of material, I'm still up a point because I was up 2 pawns before I sacrificed. So the more you can win pieces or pawns, anything in this game, anytime you can win material in chess, take that opportunity. Don't think about what the plan could be, because very rarely, and pretty much all the time, whenever there's something free, it's because it's actually free, right? There is no, you see this guy, he gave up these pawns, he didn't have anything else. And part of that is trusting in your development as well. Trusting that at this point in the game, my pieces are so much more developed than his, right? Do you see this? My pieces are all way more developed than his. So why not, bring the fight to him by winning the material? And that's what it's all about, Well, not what it's all about, but that's what you should be wanting to do, right? Oh no, this is not my database. I need my game. Oh no. I don't know why I went to that. Like that's my database now. Where's my? I gotta go to stats. There it is. Games. Did we just look at this one? I believe we did just look at this one. Yes, we did. We can look at this one. I actually don't know how much time is on this video. I don't keep track, guys. I don't keep track. That's why it gets to rambly, and I know. I'm gonna try to do better, but best believe that there's gonna be some times. Okay, anyways, English. Now against the English, I don't have no repertoire. I don't have a repertoire either. This is what I either do. I either go C6, E5, C5, C5, E5, C6, C5. Those are my 3 options. Usually whatever happens next is entirely dependent on how the game goes. And in this game, I realized he was making a lot of pawn thrust, but at the same time, he wasn't taking the center. You see how I've taken a lot more of the center? I have a bigger piece of the center than he does. That was my plan. I was like, okay, well, if he's going to, build this little chain right here, I mean, that's good and all, but I'm going to take the center, especially as black. More often than not, when you're playing as black, you don't really get a chip at the center. So now we get into this like quasi accelerated dragon, but not really because this pawn is really supposed to be here. So we can thrust here. But again, this is out of the English. I wasn't necessarily planning on getting into any Sicilian-like position, so it was kind of more of a accident than anything. And at this point, I'm like, okay, well, let's just trade, right? There's not much going on, especially to bring the queen out, and then he goes for this sack, which is not a good sack. I mean, I don't know why. Like, all he's done is brought a knight to the center with a bastion. So, and open up this file for the rook, and just excited a lot of problems. And he's giving me a free pawn now, right? So, all in all, he sacked a knight for a pawn to give me the pawn back. Yeah, I did. I want y'all to notice that, right? At this point, 2 points of material. He pushes the pawn, sacking the pawn. Now he's down 3 points material, aka entire piece, aka a knight. He's down a knight in this position. And in this position, yes, he was down a knight, but it was for a pawn. So he wasn't down all 3 points. He's only down 2 points, which, you know, you can argue whether or not that was still worth it or not. But regardless, it's damn sure a whole lot better than being down at 3-4 points. And now at this point, I don't know why I thought he was going to take here. Like, I was just so greedy and I wanted to get this check off. But it is what it is, because either way, that's another pawn. So now he's down 4 points of material. And again, when you see the opportunities to win material, you take it. Very rarely do you not take it, you know. And usually when you don't take it, when that situation comes up, you know, you can see that the opponent, like even here, right even here. Oh, I went all the way back. But at this point, right when he sacks right here, I knew he was going to try to go for a checkmate idea. He was going to try, right? Or he was at least going to build up towards going for it. But then he plays this. And you might be like, well, doesn't that prove you wrong? Doesn't that prove that he wasn't trying to? Yes, in a sense, you know. But regardless, I knew that he wanted to play here, right? He wanted to play here to get into something. Whether to be, you know, maybe he wanted me to take, right? Maybe you expect me to take so he can do this. But even still, you see, there's a lot of threats. There's a lot of threats in this position from here, especially because this pawn is under fire now, right? So, again, remember, it's not, you know, it's not always too good to be true. Actually, more often than not, it isn't, right? Too good to be true. But even when it seems like it is, right, it usually isn't, you know. But it's a matter of trusting in your defense. That is what, you know, is the difference. And at this point, the game's pretty much over. He's down 4 points material. I even give up a pawn, right? Y'all see that, right? I gave up this pawn because at this point, for one, this is a misclick. I wanted to go F1, or I said F1, F8 initially, because why the fuck not? I mean, this would be another free pawn. So I wanted to go F8, and then I give up another pawn to win the rook. And now at this point, pretty much nothing that can be done. I've won another one. I'm going to win another one. And at this point, the game is all but over. You know, I can just shuffle through these moves and, you know. Especially at this point, when the only really general rule of thumb at this point in the endgame, right, is sorry, I turned the notifications. The only kind of concept that matters at this point is trading down, which is why I was quick I wanted to go rook f8 to either win a rook, trade a rook. Didn't really matter. That was the plan, is to trade down, right? Because once you get to a position that's this simple, this rook is not going to beat 2 rooks, and it damn sure is not going to beat 2 rooks with 2 pious pawns on the same side of the board when the king is completely cut off from said side of the board, by the way. This king is not getting anywhere near these pawns. So at this point, you know, it's either you can still go for trades or, you know, things of that nature to really simplify the position, but it's simplified enough to where there isn't much missing here. And at this point, yeah, it's mate in 5. If you really want to draw it out, I guess I can give it to you real quick. Then you would go check, king e6, queen e3, which is here. F5, D5, King G4, G5, right? Defended by the queen, H4, and then you can go G3, and that's simply checkmate. King has no squares available. And I don't know if I would have got to that in the game. There's other options too, right? You see there's other options, there's other lines to use. But in general, that's about as simple as it gets. Okay, we got one more game. And definitely one more game because I think this was also a resignation and it was in 20 moves or less, and it was. So we can get into this. Standard Scotch, but he goes for a field or counter, so it's again not necessarily a Scotch, but it's the usual position you would get in such a Scotch as a Scotch. And again, free material, especially not just about taking the free material. Okay, this is a free pawn. But why is this free pawn so important? Look at this bishop. This bishop will either go here to a very weak diagonal, or it can stay on this somewhat strong diagonal that has been blunted and is being supported by my bishop. So either way, this bishop is like 5 times worse than it initially was. Right? And either way, I'm up a pawn. So I won a pawn for free. Force the bishop off of the diagonal that it kind of probably would have preferred, right? Being here, you know, because you can get all types of queen, you know, here, and then like you get all types of ideas, all types of nasty ideas you can line up, you know, on these diagonals. Now this diagonal is pretty nasty in of itself. Okay, it's not a bad diagonal in of itself, but it's not perfect. And again, another free pawn. Right? And again, you know, I talked about this in my last video, cutting off the king. The king is losing squares. Every move, he's losing squares. Right? C4. C4 had to happen at some point. I chose there. And right here, I knew he had lost because, for one, he took with the king. Now, king F7 is literally just a blunder. Like, it's actually a blunder. Like, rook F7 is clearly the better move. Or even ignoring it, right? So then I take, and at this point, it's cleanup. 2 pawns, trade down the pieces, you know, but don't, you know, that's one thing. Don't be in a rush to trade down, because that's where you end up losing. It's where you end up losing a lot, pretty much. So, yeah. Oh, this is a pretty cool, sweet tactic right here. The old classic fossil. The classic fossil. And the funny thing about this is that it's not even a true fossil. You see? Queen could just take. Now, for obvious reasons, this is still winning because it's just a trade, right? And that was really what it was. I only wanted to trade. I didn't even want to win the queen. But it was more so a thing to force the queen into this position, because in chess, you realize the more powerful the pieces, the more you kind of want to slow. One moment. Yes?
What you doing?
I was recording.
Well, when you get through, come here.
All right, I'll be right there. I'm keeping that in, by the way. Anyways, can't get enough of my peoples, man. I cannot. So, yeah, here, I was not initially thinking he was going to take with the rook, or, well, that was the only option. You can't take with the pawn, you're pinned. So, when I seen it, I was like, I mean, free queen. Now it's definitely game over. Even if this knight comes in, which I hope that wasn't his plan, because regardless, it doesn't matter, because, oh, I actually didn't go here. But even still, I could just go here. And now, even if the rook takes, which it can, knight's still under pressure. It's just a lot of pressure. And this move, is this move even better? Yes, that is actually the best line. Wow, I didn't know that. Okay, but I go here, which pretty much does the same thing, and then he resigns at this point because I don't know if he didn't realize that was a blunder until after he made the move, or if that was one of those moves he just made to kind of like troll, because you know sometimes guys do that. But either way, it was a lot of problematic things in this position. Rook f7, even like this doesn't even matter because takes here. So much wrong here, and, you know, it's a lot of ideas in this position that could pretty much end the game sooner rather than later. And I mean, it's +7, so you know what can you say to the guy? I mean, he tried his best, but yeah, I mean, moral of this video, more of these games is that when you see free material, don't be shy, don't hesitate. You know, usually it is free. You know, usually it is free. But again, as a beginner, you should be mindful of when your king is not safe as well, because king safety is a major part in when you can go for these ideas or when you can just take the free stuff. You know, like let's go back. I even go back to every game just as a quick aside because I know this video is definitely drawn. But every time there's been free material, like right here, what's the real danger? There's no real danger. There's nothing, like there's no queen that can get out in time that's going to do anything. There's no checks. There's no maiden one threat here. Right? I've castled even. I didn't even know that I castled at the point that I did that. So again, free stuff. Again, you see when the next move, where's the threat on my king? Threat on a knight that's already guarded by a rook, and it's only being attacked by one piece. What are we talking about? So, you know, just be mindful of your king safety. Always be mindful of your king safety. That's the number one most important thing. Be mindful of your king safety, because as long as your king is safe, whenever these blunders happen, you know, these blunders may seem insignificant, but now look, I'm up 11 points of material because he feels the pressure, because he understands that while I also have a slight material advantage, I'm also putting pressure on his king. This pawn is weak. Once this rook moves, you know, this pawn is weak, right? So it's you know, the ability to put the pressure on the opponent, to keep the pressure off yourself, and to take what's there. Chess is not that difficult of a game. At the higher levels it is, but at these beginner levels you can be winning these games if you do these simple things. You guys take care, man. Seriously, you know, it's an imperfect world we live in out there, but we can all stand to be, I don't know, perfectly imperfect, I guess. I don't know. I don't really got nothing motivational to say or anything, but just believe in yourself. I took a damn screenshot like an idiot. Oh my goodness.